Hello and welcome again to UK Property Tips. This is Charles Kelly, and this is going out on Zoom, but it's also going out on YouTube on Charles Kelly Money Tips podcast, and it will be all over the place anyway, so you can catch up wherever you are. I'm a little bit late today because I've been attending one of my properties where I had a leak last night. I don't know why all these leaks and problems always happen on a Friday night or a weekend or a bank holiday or Christmas even. There's always problems. And I got it sorted out, but fortunately I have British Gas cover. I have insurance as well. So I have the British Gas landlords cover. And I also added plumbing and heating and leaks and that sort of thing to it. It doesn't cost that much, but it's, I don't know, the premiums I paid, I probably could have used those premiums to get somebody out anyway, but it gives you peace of mind knowing that you can call someone on an evening, like at night. In this case, the tenant rang me about 9 o'clock at night, and you can get somebody to come out, whereas my normal plumber and the normal guys wouldn't come out. You wouldn't even catch them on the weekend. He's out fishing, playing golf or whatever. So I always have that, and for boiler cover as well. So whether you do that or not, some landlords don't worry about it. They prefer to have their own guys doing it, or they've got their own team. But I quite like the British Gas cover. And also, they do remind you every year when the gas safety check is due, whereas a lot of independent plumbers don't have that system. They forget, they just don't remind you. My normal plumber, he never reminds me of anything. And if I don't ring him, he won't ring me. But he's very, very busy, but he's very good. So anyway, I got the leak sorted out. I had to go back again this morning. I think you need a certain temperament to be a landlord, because that sort of thing could drive some people crazy. I've had all this hassle, but really what it involved was a few phone calls. Yes, it disrupted my Friday evening. A few phone calls, a couple of visits, make sure the tenant's okay. We had to put a bucket under the leak in his room, and fortunately I had a spare mattress because it went on his bed. But yeah, it was a bit of hassle. And this morning I've had an hour or so. But when you think about it, compared to going to work for 40 hours a week and traveling into work and all the hassle that goes with work, it's nothing like that, is it? It's a few hours a month of stuff to do. So I think you need a certain temperament. A lot of people can't stand it. I couldn't be a landlord. I don't want all the hassle of it. I don't want to get phone calls and that sort of thing. But, if you can take that kind of thing in your stride, it's a good way of investing your money. Now, I know a lot of people who've got quite a lot of money in the bank, hundreds of thousands of pounds in the bank, that could easily be put into a single let property, fully managed, but they won't do it. They'd rather earn almost zero on their money in the bank and then put it into something where they could earn 3, 4, 5% return on the money. Yeah, I know it's a bit of a risk. I know it's a bit of hassle, but some people just won't do it. It's not for everyone, in other words. But bear in mind, if your money is in the bank, you're not just earning zero, really. You're earning nothing. You're actually losing money, because inflation is now running at close to 10%. The official figures are nine-ish, but we know that inflation is higher than that. So your money is losing spending power at least 10% a year, I'd say. All right, so you might be earning a bit on your money. Call it 8%, call it 9%. That's still a lot of money to be losing every year, right? So just think about that. You're losing money every year. Probably 7 or 8 years, the value of your money is halved in value in terms of spending power by leaving it in the bank. And I know retired people that face the prospect of running out of money because their money is not earning any money in the bank, and the bank haven't even put up the interest rate since the last 5 interest rate rises. They haven't put up their interest rates to give them a bit more return on their savings. They have to come move it around and go to this account or go to that account, and some people can't be bothered, and they know that. So they're getting free money here. It's horrendous. I know low interest rates have been good for borrowers, but for savers and retired people, it's been a disaster. They've fallen behind. And for people retiring now and getting an annuity, the rates are really poor. Whereas if they took that money out and put it into a property, they could be earning more money. But obviously that carries more risk, and you've got repairs to do and that sort of thing. But you've got to have the right mindset to be into property. But I think if you have the right attitude and you have the right temperament and mindset, property, I think, is still one of the best investments out there for the long term. And, it's certainly less risky than, say, putting your money into stock markets and commodities and that sort of thing. Yes, if you understand the stock market, if you can trade on the currency market, if you understand gold and silver and when to buy, go for it. But yeah, keep a bit of money in gold and silver, that's fine. If you want to invest in the stock market and you understand it, that's also fine. It can be passive income as well. But property for me has been a way of building up capital. You can leverage, you can borrow money to buy property. You can't really do that to buy stocks and shares and that sort of thing, not easily anyway. So it's always been a good investment for me. And certainly for people sitting on a lot of cash, there's ways they could earn more money on that in property. And I talk to people about that in my, for my private clients, for people who consult me, and on how to build their wealth and that sort of thing. Now, I wanted to talk today about buying property and selling at auction. You see a lot of things on Under the Hammer on these programs on TV, but a lot of people don't really understand it fully. So I wanted to go through some key things you might want to consider before you go and buy something at auction, or before you can put your property in an auction. First of all, do you know the difference between buying at auction and buying through traditional estate agents, sometimes called sale by private treaty? And these are the ways you would sell in a traditional estate agent on the high street. Well, let me just run through it quickly. If you buy through an estate agent in the high street, typically you'd go in there and you'd say, I want to buy this property. They'd say, what do you want to offer? And you say, well, I'll offer, let's say the property was $500,000 and you say, well, I'll offer 450. And then the agent goes back to the vendor and the vendor says, no, tell him to bugger off. I'm not let's set it for 450. And then eventually you might meet somewhere in the middle. Let's say you settled on £480,000 after a bit of to-in and fro-in with the vendor. And, you then go off and say, right, I'll go and get my mortgage done and get a survey done and get the legal things done. So you go then instruct your solicitor, and the solicitor then calls for all the paperwork. And then that, if you had cash, that could still take 4 weeks or so to sort out all the inquiries and the pre-contract inquiries. Then you've got to get a survey. If you're arranging a mortgage, you might have a pre-arranged mortgage in principle, but you still got to get the survey done. That's going to take 3-4 weeks sometimes to get that organized and get your offer out, assuming there's no problem with the survey. But then in this time, you might then find something wrong with the property. The surveyor says, well, there's a crack down this wall, or there's damp, and that needs to be investigated. So you might have to go back to the vendor and then say, well, look, there's a problem here. I feel that I should get some money off of this property because all the windows are rotten, there's damp, there's a crack, whatever, roof needs replacing. You could go back and renegotiate with the vendor. The surveyor could also downvalue the property. You're buying it for 480, but the surveyor could say, no, it's only worth 450 because a few around the corner sold for that. And then the vendors, no, they were in back, they weren't as big as my property, they didn't have an extension. You could argue about this. And at the end of the day, it could go on for weeks, it could go on for a couple of months, right? Then there could be a chain. You're saying, well, I can't buy your property because someone is buying my property and their mortgage has been held up. And then at the end of the day, after 5-6 months, maybe, the whole thing could crash down because one of the people in the chain changes their mind. And the sale falls through because the chain is broken, and then, well, the vendor can change their mind. You can change your mind, just say, I don't want it anymore. So that's the traditional way of buying and selling in England and Wales. Scotland have a slightly different system. Now, it's not a bad system. It actually gives people time to consider. So when they put their offer in and it's accepted, they've got time to consider. They've got time to do the legal work. They've got time to do the surveys and that sort of thing. And if their circumstances change, they can back out right up to the point at which the solicitors do something called exchanging contracts. When you sign the contract and you exchange contracts, which is done on the phone, say, right, we are exchanging contracts, completion will take place in 28 days, then you're committed, then you have to buy. Then if you back out, the vendor can keep your deposit. Normally exchange of contracts will be done with a 5 or 7% deposit. The vendor can keep the deposit and even sue you for the difference as well and charge you interest for not completing, failing to complete. So that gives you time to get all your ducks in a row. But when you're buying through an auction, it's completely different. When you go into a room and bid on the property and your bid is accepted by the auctioneer, and they go around, so you say 450, 450, 460, 470, 480, 480, then you're the last man at 480, and then they look around, no, don't want it. Right, 480 to the man in the corner, your bid's accepted. You have then legally and bindingly exchanged contracts at that point. The other way is you go for all this paperwork, but no, you've exchanged contracts and you have to complete within the specified time, which is normally 28 days. So it's a bit like the reverse order. You have to get all your ducks in a row before you go to bid. You have to get your finance arranged. You have to read the legal pack. You have to organize a survey and viewings, and then make sure that you really want that property before you bid. The auctioneers would usually require a deposit from you before you bid. Not all auctioneers do. Sometimes you can walk in a room and bid without them even checking you out. But most now, even if it's online, would ask you for a credit card or some form of deposit so that you don't kind of disappear after putting your hand up. So, and you're not going to buy a property by scratching your head, by the way. That's a myth. You scratch your head and you bought a £500,000 property. No, they would normally know who's bidding in the room. Auctioneers are not stupid. They just because someone goes like that, it doesn't mean, or they wave to their friend, it doesn't mean, you've accepted it, you bought a property, in theory anyway. But normally you would get all your homework done before. So that's the question to ask. Have you done your homework? Have you got your finances ready? Have you done a survey? Are you able to complete within the specified time, 28 days of the hammer going down? Have you got your deposit in order? Because you'd need the deposit on the day, whether you've lodged that previously or you've got a draft or a check or something. You need to have that deposit there ready to pay on the day to secure the property. If you're bidding online or at a physical auction, have you registered to bid? Because some auctioneers require you to be registered to bid, so that you can't, if you walk into a room and decide you want that property, no, you would have to go through a registration process, maybe some money laundering checks so they know who you are. Most of them require that now. I have been into auctions where I put my hand up and they would have accepted my offer, but I was outbid without any registration. But I think most of them now do require something. Certainly the online people do require a credit card payment or a hold of a payment up front. So you've got to be registered to bid. Have you registered the legal pack? Have you read the legal pack? Have you got your solicitor check out the legal pack? Because in a traditional way, buying through an estate agent, the solicitor then requests the legal pack. But if you're selling in an auction, you have to provide all that up front so people can read that themselves or can get their solicitor. So it's all done in reverse. You do all the checks first, and then you bid, and then you bought it. So really, you've got to do all your due diligence at an auction. Why do you want to buy this property? Are you trying to do it up and sell it, buy and refurbish, or you're going to buy, refurbish and finance? Are you trying to flip it, or are you buying it to live in? Increasingly, a lot of people buy auction properties to live in. So you've got to get your strategy right, and consider then why the property has been sold at auction. Why has this property been sold? Is it been sold because there's a problem with it? Is it been sold because there's structural problems? Or is there a genuine reason why it's been sold, like it's a death in the family, it's a probate sale, or is it a housing association that's selling off 5 or 6 properties in the area? That would be more of a genuine, normal reason for selling. Other reasons could be there's a problem with it. There's a problem with the lease. There's a problem with a tenant. There's a sitting tenant. There's structural problems. There's a massive amount of repairs to be done, and you normally wouldn't buy that through the normal estate agent. It could be above a shop, a retail premises, a fish and chip shop, where you might have trouble getting a mortgage on it. So they decide, let's just put it in the auction. It could be a commercial property. It could be a semi-commercial. It could be a property with a defective title, a defective lease, or a property where you're just buying the freehold and the other flats in the building are all on long leases, or it could be a bit of both. So there's all sorts of reasons. You've got to find out what the reason is, why this property is being sold at auction, and if it's for you. If it's a straightforward sale and the auctioneers are just selling it because the housing association or the police authority are selling off that property, That's a normal sale. So you wouldn't expect there to be a defective title or problem with it. But a lot of dealers and a lot of investors will buy a property with a problem, like a structure or like a defective title. They know they can sort that out later on and then add value to the property by getting it sorted out. Another reason for selling a property at auction is short leases. I've seen properties with a 5-year lease in Knightsbridge, but generally 40, 50, 60, 70 years, shortish lease, difficult to get a mortgage on it, not impossible. So they put it in at the auction, you buy it, you then extend the lease, you've got an uplift there, you've added value to it. But then you've got to check how much will it cost us to extend the lease. No point in doing it if it's going to cost 100,000 to extend the lease, and you're no better off than if you just bought one with a long lease. So you've got to look at all these things. Now, open house, at my estate agent, we also do auctions as well. That's the company, or Open House South Herts. We also cover auction properties. We've got auction properties right now with short leases above a shop, different reasons. They need a fast sale. And we've got those on our Facebook page, which is Open House South Herts. We can also sell your property at auction with no fees to the vendor. Now that brings me on to this point. There are two types of auctions in general. There's a traditional auction, traditionally done in the room, increasingly now jointly with online and in the room. Then there's what's called a modern auction, which is a slightly different process. With a modern auction, it's online and the bidding is taking place during the auction period. So instead of waiting till the day of the auction, then you can bid on a modern auction property at any time. You've got to make sure that when you bid, you're ready. Because if your offer is accepted during that period, you're then committed to buy. So a modern auction is a bit like, I don't know, if you think of an eBay where you can bid and bid and bid on an item, you're not waiting for the final auction day. You can bid during the period up to the auction day. So with a modern auction, you might have an auction day, which is 1st of July, but in the time between now and the 1st of July, you can bid immediately and the vendor could accept your bid. The vendor might say, well, I'm happy with that bid. I want it now, I want to secure it. Then you would be committed to buy. By that time, you would have already put your credit card up as well. Now, modern auctions normally require that the buyer pays the fees, which can be 1%, 2%, 3%. Up north, it could be 2 or 3% because the properties are cheaper up there. And the vendor does not pay any fees. Now, this can be negotiated, of course, but it's a way that the vendor can sell the property with no fees. So if you wanted to sell your property fast, get it out there quick, none of this messing around for months and months, and you can secure the sale when the hammer goes down, the modern auction might be something that you might consider if you want a fast sale, or just a sale that you know that once it's sold, it's sold. It's not sold in the traditional way like the estate agent puts up on the board, sold by so-and-so and so-and-so company, but then it's not really sold. Then you find the sold sign comes down because a few months later, the whole sale has fallen through. But with an auction, a modern auction, you know that once the bid is accepted, 99% of the time that is sold, that no one's going to back out. So you might want to consider that if you are thinking about selling your property and you want a sale done straight away, and you know that that's it at the end of it. Now, what are the pros and cons? Well, the pros and cons are, well, the pros are that you would sell it faster, and you know that once it's sold, it's done and dusted. It's not going to fall out of bed. The cons are you might not get the price you want, but sometimes in an auction you get more than you think you would get. If it's you can often find that people go mad for a property and bid it far higher than it's actually worth. So you never know. But if you want to sell your property at auction, get in touch with me, Charles Kelly, Open House. You can find me at charles.kelly@localagent.co.uk. We're part of a national franchise, the Open House Estate Agency Network. So we've got offices all over the country, got a really good backup system. If you want to sell it to the traditional way, we're doing a special offer, £1,250 flat fee, which is very competitive because where I'm operating in Watford, Borehamwood, Elstree, Radlett, properties could be several £1 million, £5 million property, even at a 1% fee would cost you £50,000 in fees. I can sell it for £1,250, still do the viewing, still do all the traditional stuff, still put it on Zoopla and Rightmove, and take care of everything right through to the end of the sale, it would save you, 48,000 pounds in fees. And that 50,000 pound might be VAT added. So 50,000 pound, 1% fee plus VAT would come out at 60,000 pounds. I could do it for 1,250 pound all in, 1,250 pounds all in. But if you want to sell at auction, no fees for the vendor, we can also look at that as well. Have a look at our Facebook page, which is Open House South Hearts on Facebook. You can find it. You can also find it as openhousesouthhearts.com. So I hope you found that useful. With auctions, I think that the question is, if you're buying, then buyer beware is the watchword, because you can't say, oh, I didn't realize that, I didn't read the legal pack. No, you're buying it. For a seller, I've sold properties at auction. I think it's great because it's so much easier. You don't get this messing around with people, during the process, and you've exchanged, you complete, that's it. Even my solicitor, he loves selling properties at auction. The contract is so much easier and more straightforward. With selling the traditional way, even up to the point of exchange, even up to the point of completion, you can still get people messing you around and failing to complete and that sort of. Anyway, I won't go through all of that. Have a great day wherever you are. I don't know when you're watching this, but if you're watching this at the weekend, we normally go out on a Saturday morning. Have a great weekend. Bear in mind, we've had a lot of turmoil in the property market at the moment, with the government imposing things on us and now raising interest rate. But I don't think it's as bad as people make out. Certainly if a socialist government got in, I think it could be a lot worse. We would see a lot more restrictions on landlords. And if it was liberals, they'd propose a wealth tax on people, just taxing because of your wealth. Like, let's levy a 5% tax on your wealth, including your property, including your goods and chattels. That's not a great system, is it? So whatever the current government is doing, I think it could be a lot worse if you go down the socialist route, where they're calling for, landlords to be strung up and all properties to be in the government hands and that sort of stuff. So that's a bit scary, but I don't think that's going to happen. They need private landlords. They need investors to build properties. They need property companies to build and refurbish and bring properties back to life, convert commercials into, they need commercials to, private developers to develop commercials into flats and that sort of thing. So we'll still be around for a long time. So get in touch with us if you want to sell your property cheaply, £1,250, or no fees if you sell it through our auction system. So get in touch with us, openhouse.com, openhousesouthhearts.com, or check out our Facebook page, Open House South Hearts. That's HERTS. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Bye for now.